That golden brown loaf on your kitchen counter looks perfect, but what's really hiding inside could be silently damaging your health, spiking blood sugar, and even affecting your kids. The truth about supermarket bread will shock you. That loaf of bread on your kitchen counter looks perfect, doesn't it? It has a golden brown crust and a soft, fluffy inside, all ready for your morning toast. But what's really hiding inside that loaf could be slowly damaging your health, and you might not even realize it. For the past few months, I've been digging through American food safety reports, FDA inspection data, and the ingredient lists of dozens of the most popular bread products sold in grocery stores across the USA. What I discovered made me rethink everything I thought I knew about the bread we eat every day. For people with diabetes, some of these loaves spike blood sugar faster than pure table sugar. In children, hidden additives may be linked to concentration problems and hyperactivity. For seniors on heart medication, certain artificial ingredients can interfere with how those drugs work in the body. In this video, I'm counting down 7 types of bread you need to avoid at all costs, even if they look healthy on the shelf. Stick around until the end, because I'll also reveal 2 bread options that genuinely deserve a place in your kitchen. Coming in at number 7 on our list is the store brand white bread, 500 grams, sold exclusively at Walmart for about $1.59. This is your classic white bread made from refined wheat flour, and it's one of the most frequently purchased loaves in the United States, precisely because of that low price. But here's what the manufacturer doesn't want you to know. When they process the white flour for this $1.59 loaf, they strip away the bran and the germ from the wheat kernel. These are the parts that contain all the fiber, vitamins, and minerals. What's left is essentially pure starch with almost no nutritional value. Scientists have measured the glycemic index of white bread, like this store-brand loaf, and what they found is alarming. It scores higher than many candy bars. This means that when you eat a slice of Walmart's 500-gram store-brand white bread, your blood sugar skyrockets almost instantly. Take a slice of this white bread out of the bag and squeeze it in your hand. Notice how it compresses into a dense, doughy ball, almost like Play-Doh. Real, whole-grain bread holds its structure. This generic white bread turns to paste because the fiber that would normally give it structure has been completely removed. Leave this $1.59 loaf on your counter for a week, and it will barely change. Even mold doesn't want to grow on it. That should tell you something about what you're putting into your body. For diabetics and anyone with insulin resistance, this 500-gram loaf for $1.59 from Walmart is a metabolic nightmare. Each slice triggers a blood sugar spike, followed by a crash that leaves you feeling hungry again within an hour. For kids eating sandwiches made with this bread at school, that energy crash hits right when they need to focus on their afternoon lessons. For anyone trying to maintain a healthy weight, this white bread delivers empty calories that do nothing to keep you full. American nutritionists have been warning against this kind of white bread for years, but it still dominates the shelves at Walmart because it only costs about $1.50 and has an incredibly long shelf life. Skip that generic 500-gram white bread at Walmart and keep walking down the bread aisle, because what's coming next is even worse. Number 6 is Wonder Bread Classic White, the 375-gram loaf, sold at Walmart, Target, Kroger, and Safeway for around $3.49. This bread is packed with chemical additives and preservatives that have no place in real food. Let me break down exactly what's inside a loaf of Wonder Bread Classic White. Go to any Walmart or Target and pick up that iconic yellow, red, and blue packaging for about $3.49. Flip it over and check the ingredients. You'll find things like sodium diacetate, sorbic acid, artificial flavors, and even ethanol. Yes, ethanol in your sandwich bread. The salt content is 1.1 grams per 100 grams. Eat just 4 slices of Wonder Bread, and you've consumed almost half of the World Health Organization's recommended daily sodium intake from the bread alone. Wonder Bread is owned by Flowers Foods, one of the largest industrial bread producers in the United States. They rely on these additives for very specific reasons. Dough conditioners make the bread rise faster, so their factories can churn out more loaves per hour. Preservatives extend the shelf life, so stores can keep Wonder Bread on the shelves for weeks instead of days. Emulsifiers create that artificially soft texture that stays consistent from the first slice to the last. None of these ingredients were part of bread making for thousands of years of American baking tradition. Press your finger into a slice of Wonder Bread from Target, the one that costs $3.49. See how it springs back perfectly every single time with that rubbery elasticity? Real bread doesn't do that. Real bread has an irregular texture, with air pockets of different sizes. That uniform springiness in Wonder Bread comes from chemically manipulating the dough structure. For people with sensitive digestive systems, the additives in this bread can trigger inflammation and gut discomfort. For kids whose bodies are still developing, regular exposure to the artificial ingredients in this $3.49 loaf puts an extra burden on their detoxification systems. For pregnant women trying to eat clean, Wonder Bread is the polar opposite of what nutritionists recommend. The company knows consumers are getting smarter, so they plaster words like natural on packaging that still contain synthetic ingredients. The word natural has no legal definition in the US food industry, so it means absolutely nothing. That was bad, but things are about to get truly disturbing. Coming in at number 5, we have Nature's Own 100% whole wheat bread, the 275-gram loaf sold at Walmart, Target, and Kroger for about $4.29. This is another standard store-bought bread, marketed as a healthy whole grain option. The packaging screams, quote, "2," with its earthy brown colors and images of wheat fields. Parents see that and feel good about feeding it to their kids. But what consumer tests revealed is that Nature's Own 100% whole wheat bread actually contains more refined white flour than whole wheat flour. Just check the ingredients list on this package, which goes for $4.29 at stores like Target. Refined wheat flour is listed before whole wheat flour. In the United States, ingredients must be listed in order of quantity. That means this supposedly whole wheat bread is mostly just white bread, with some whole grains thrown in for marketing. Take a slice of Nature's Own 100% whole wheat bread, the kind you can get at Walmart for $4.29, and try to pull it apart. Notice how it stretches before it tears, almost like a piece of fabric. Real, properly made bread breaks apart cleanly because the gluten strands form naturally during a slow fermentation process. Nature's Own, however, uses rapid rise methods and chemical dough conditioners that create this weird, unnatural elasticity. Toast a slice and watch how quickly it goes from soft to burnt, almost skipping the golden brown stage in between. The sugars and additives in Nature's Own bread caramelize at lower temperatures than the natural sugars in real bread. For families relying on this bread from Kroger at $4.29 a loaf for their daily sandwiches, the sodium content alone is alarming. A single slice contains over 150 milligrams of sodium, and most sandwiches use 2 slices. Add some lunch meat and cheese, and a single sandwich can easily deliver a quarter of a child's recommended daily sodium intake. For people with high blood pressure, this hidden sodium makes managing their condition significantly harder. And for anyone watching their sugar intake, the added sweeteners in this $4.29 bread add up fast when you eat it every day. The healthy label on Nature's Own 100% whole wheat bread means nothing when the numbers on the nutrition panel tell a completely different story. Number 4 on our list is Udi's gluten-free, delicious soft white bread, the 12-ounce loaf sold at Safeway, Albertsons, and even some pharmacies for around $6.99. It's a highly processed gluten-free bread made mostly of starches and stabilizers. Let me be clear, people with celiac disease or a genuine gluten intolerance need gluten-free options. The problem is that brands like Udi's have turned the gluten-free label into a marketing goldmine while delivering terrible nutrition. Check the ingredients on a loaf of Udi's gluten-free bread from Safeway, which costs $6.99. You'll find tapioca starch, potato starch, cornstarch, and rice starch dominating the list. These refined starches have even higher glycemic indexes than regular wheat flour. To make up for the lack of gluten structure, Udi's adds xanthan gum, hydroxypropyl methylcellulose, and a variety of other stabilizers that most people can't even pronounce. The texture of Canyon Bakehouse's gluten-free white bread, a 7-ounce loaf from Target costing about $5.99, reveals the truth. It crumbles into sandy particles the moment you try to spread butter on it. Other slices have a gummy, tacky quality that sticks to the roof of your mouth. Neither of these textures even remotely resembles real bread, because Canyon Bakehouse's gluten-free loaf is essentially just compressed starch powder held together by industrial-grade binding agents. For people without celiac disease who buy Canyon Bakehouse's 7-ounce gluten-free white bread from Walmart for $5.99, thinking it's a healthier choice, you're paying a premium for inferior nutrition compared to a loaf of genuine rye bread for about $3.99 in the same store. For diabetics who've switched to Canyon Bakehouse, assuming it will help with their blood sugar control, these starch bombs often make the problem even worse. For the kids whose parents are buying this product without a medical reason, the nutrient deficiencies from relying on this $5.99 loaf can impact their growth and development. Some gluten-free brands do make excellent products using whole grain flours from quinoa, buckwheat, millet, and other naturally gluten-free grains. A good quality multi-grain gluten-free bread available at Whole Foods or Sprouts might run you about $8 or $9. It's worth seeking those out, but the Canyon Bakehouse 7-ounce white bread at $5.99, filled with refined starches and stabilizers, definitely belongs on the avoid list. We're halfway through, and number 3 is about to enter territory that will shock you. Number 3 is the King Arthur Flour Bread Mix, a 17.25-ounce box sold exclusively at major grocery stores for around $4.99. This is a ready-made bread mix that appeals to people who want the experience of fresh baked bread at home without the effort of making it from scratch. The King Arthur mix promises all you have to do is add water and bake. The packaging shows a rustic-looking loaf and emphasizes its homemade quality. It sounds perfect until you dig a little deeper. Independent testing has found alarming levels of mycotoxins in grain products, including bread mixes just like King Arthur's. Studies from institutions like the USDA have confirmed the presence of ochratoxin A and trichothecenes in American grains, flour, and bread. Research from Cornell University showed that some rye flour samples contained as much as 422 micrograms of deoxynivalenol per kilogram. Mycotoxins are toxic compounds produced by certain molds that can contaminate grain during storage. Chronic exposure to mycotoxins has been linked to immune system damage, liver problems, and other serious health issues. The King Arthur mix at $4.99 also contains ascorbic acid, high fructose corn syrup, and pre-added preservatives that you wouldn't find on the ingredient list of your truly homemade bread. The grains used in King Arthur's products are sourced from large-scale industrial agriculture, where chemical treatments are standard practice. When you bake bread from scratch using high-quality organic flour, you control your ingredients. When you use a pre-made bread mix from a store like Lidl, you're placing your trust in the manufacturer to have sourced pure ingredients. Open up a 1-pound bag of store-brand bread mix, which might cost you around $1.29, and take a sniff. Often you'll detect a faint, almost chemical undertone beneath the scent of the flour. Real, unadulterated flour has an earthy, wheat-like aroma. These pre-made mixes often smell processed because they contain added flavorings designed to mimic the smell of fresh bread once it's baked. For families who enjoy baking together on weekends, switching from that $1.29 mix to real, stone-ground rye flour from a reputable brand like Bob's Red Mill, which you can find at Walmart for about $3.49 a kilogram, gives you complete control over what goes into your bread. For anyone with a compromised immune system, avoiding potential exposure to mycotoxins from mass-produced mixes is well worth the extra effort of baking from scratch. The __6___ label on a loaf made from a mix doesn't mean it's pure if the ingredients were compromised long before they reached your kitchen. The fourth item on our list is from Nature's Own. Their multi-grain sliced bread with seeds, a 10-ounce loaf sold at Walmart, Lidl and Kroger for about $2.19. This bread is loaded with high levels of salt and saturated oils, all while being marketed as a premium, healthy choice. The Nature's Own multigrain bread, costing $2.19, prominently features whole grains on its packaging. You can see the sunflower seeds, the pumpkin seeds, and the word underscore underscore, quote underscore 7 underscore underscore, all wrapped in earthy brown packaging to suggest it's natural and wholesome. But Nature's Own knows that while consumers look for whole grains and fiber, they often overlook the sodium and fat content. This healthy bread from Nature's Own, priced at $2.19, contains over 200 milligrams of sodium per slice and uses palm oil, one of the most controversial ingredients in the food industry due to both health and environmental concerns. Just 4 slices of this bread deliver about 2 grams of salt. That's 40% of the World Health Organization's daily recommended maximum from the bread alone. American studies consistently show that the average salt intake is over 3,400 milligrams a day, far exceeding the WHO's recommendations. Products like this Nature's Own multigrain bread have been identified as a major hidden source of sodium in our diets. Run your finger across a slice of this Nature's Own bread, and you'll notice a slight oily residue left behind from the palm oil. Now check the nutrition label. This Nature's Own bread, supposedly a healthy whole grain option, contains more sodium per serving than a small bag of Lay's potato chips. For individuals managing heart disease or high blood pressure, the hidden sodium in this $2.19 loaf from Kroger sabotages their dietary efforts. For anyone trying to reduce inflammation in their body, the palm oil in this bread actively works against that goal. And for children developing their taste preferences, a bread packed with this much salt and fat trains their palates to expect and crave these intense flavors in every meal. That underscore underscore, quote underscore, 9 underscore underscore label on the Schulstad multigrain seeded toast bread, costing $3.49 for a 10.5-ounce loaf, means absolutely nothing when the numbers on the nutrition facts panel tell a completely different story. It's a classic case of marketing over substance, a trick designed to make you feel good about a choice that isn't really supporting your wellness goals. And now we arrive at number 1, the absolute worst offender on this entire list. Taking the top spot is Kroger's store brand sliced rye bread, a 14-ounce loaf for just $1.39. This bread is a masterclass in vague ingredients and deceptive labeling, a practice that systematically misleads consumers. The FDA consistently finds that a significant percentage, somewhere between 28 and 40%, of bread products fail to meet labeling requirements, and this bread is a prime example of the problem. This Kroger bread is labeled as, quote, 10, but whole grain flour isn't actually the dominant ingredient. Just look at the ingredients list on this Kroger sliced rye bread, selling for $1.39. You'll find that refined wheat flour, plain old white flour, is listed before any whole grain rye flour. That dark, hearty color that makes the bread look so healthy and wholesome, it comes from added caramel color, an artificial dye, not from the richness of genuine whole grain flour. Kroger uses marketing terms like underscore underscore, quote underscore 11, underscore underscore, underscore on a product that is loaded with emulsifiers, preservatives, and artificial colors. Ingredients that traditional rye bread recipes would never, ever include. Pick up a loaf of this Kroger sliced rye bread, and the weight often feels off. It's too light and fluffy, suggesting it's mostly air and additives rather than dense, nutritious whole grains. The color is also unnaturally uniform through every single slice, whereas real whole grain bread has natural variations in color and texture. This bread has an artificial consistency that is a dead giveaway of industrial processing. For anyone who genuinely cares about their health, the deceptive labeling on this Kroger sliced rye bread is an automatic disqualification. For parents feeding growing children, the mystery ingredients masked by caramel coloring are simply unacceptable. And for seniors whose bodies process toxins less efficiently, taking a gamble on bread that's just pretending to be whole grain isn't worth saving $1.39. So pause for a moment and go look in your kitchen right now. If you have a loaf of rye bread with labels promising whole grain goodness, but listing refined flour first, you need to seriously reconsider if it belongs in your home. But don't lose hope, because good, honest bread still exists across the USA, and I'm about to show you exactly what to buy and where to find it. Your first trustworthy option is Dave's Killer Bread's Organic Power Seed Loaf, a 27-ounce package sold at Walmart for $6.98 and at Target for a similar $7.29. You can also find it at thousands of grocery stores nationwide. Dave's Killer Bread is a company with a powerful story that started in the 1950s. They make this bread with a simple, clean ingredient list: organic whole wheat, a power seed mix, water, and sea salt. Nothing more. No E-numbers, no preservatives, no artificial additives. Now compare that to a loaf of Wonder Bread from Walmart for $3.49, loaded with 12 different additives. The Arnold's bread for $3.99 is actually cheaper and infinitely healthier. The sourdough fermentation process in the Arnold's whole grains rye bread lowers the bread's glycemic index. Natural acids produced during fermentation slow down the rate at which your body converts starches into sugar. For diabetics, this sourdough from Arnold's means a gentler impact on blood sugar compared to Wonder Bread or Sunbeam. For everyone else, it means sustained energy instead of those dreaded sugar crash cycles. Take a look at the Arnold's whole grain sourdough rye, a 1-pound loaf from Target for $3.99. Inside, the crumb has irregular holes of varying sizes. The crust is solid and naturally cracked. The aroma is complex, with a slight tang from the fermentation. Leave a slice of this Arnold's bread on the counter, and it will eventually go stale and grow mold. That is exactly how real bread is supposed to behave, because it means the bread is actual food that living organisms recognize as edible. This is a stark contrast to a loaf of Wonder Bread, which can sit unchanged for weeks on end. For digestive health, the fermentation process in the Arnold's bread breaks down some of the compounds that can cause bloating in sensitive individuals. For nutrient absorption, fermentation increases the bioavailability of minerals in the grain. For your overall health, choosing Arnold's whole grains, rye for $3.99 from Target means you're avoiding the entire chemical cocktail found in so many mass-produced products. Your second trustworthy option is the Pepperidge Farm whole grain seeded rye bread. You can find a 24-ounce loaf in most major grocery stores, like Kroger or Safeway, for about $4.99. You can even order it online for home delivery through services like Instacart. Pepperidge Farm is a classic American bakery that's been around since the 1930s. With over 90 years of baking tradition, their whole grain seeded rye has a tested glycemic index of just 36. This is exceptional for blood sugar control, especially when you consider that most commercial breads score between 70 and 90 on the glycemic index. A bread with a score of 36 is in a completely different league. Pepperidge Farm also offers a 15-grain loaf for $4.99 with a glycemic index of 43, and a light-style 7-grain bread for $4.49 with a glycemic index of 40. These are real numbers verified by lab tests, not just marketing claims like you see on the packaging for a loaf of Sunbeam. The key difference is that Pepperidge Farm keeps its ingredient list short and recognizable. Whole grain flour, water, salt, a sourdough starter, maybe some seeds. Nothing you need a chemistry degree to understand. Compare that to the Sunbeam multigrain bread for $3.49 with its long list of additives, including high fructose corn syrup and excessive sodium. The Pepperidge Farm seeded rye for $4.99 costs just $1.50 more, but it delivers actual nutrition instead of processed starch and chemicals. If you want the absolute best bread available across the country, seek out a local artisan bakery in your city, like Tartine Bakery in San Francisco or Sullivan Street Bakery in New York City. Their loaves start at around $3 and are famous nationwide for their 20-hour fermentation process. This small artisanal bakery produces what many consider the best sourdough in the country. If you happen to be in Austin, check out Easy Tiger at Link Lane. Their bread starts around $3.50, and they've won prestigious local food awards. In Chicago, Publican Quality Bread on West Lake Street has daily lines for their legendary rustic loaves, starting at about $4. In Portland, Oregon, Tabor Bread on Southeast Hawthorne Boulevard uses organic flour and is completely yeast-free, with their loaves beginning at around $3.25. Yes, a loaf from a place like Tartine Bakery for $3 or Easy Tiger for $3.50 costs more than a loaf of Wonder Bread for $1.39 from Walmart, but you're paying for actual nutrition instead of processed starch and chemicals. Are you watching your budget? Target sells a 100% rye bread from their Good and Gather line, a 14-ounce loaf for just 75 cents. Just look at the ingredients: rye flour, water, salt. 3 ingredients. That's it. It's an incredible value for a clean bread available at every Target location across the United States. This 75-cent loaf beats Wonder Bread at $1.39, and even Dave's Killer Bread's multigrain at $2 a loaf in every single nutritional measurement. The American bread market is worth over $28 billion, and it's changing fast. Supermarkets and big box stores control 43% of sales, but quality options like Arnold, Pepperidge Farm, and Target's Good and Gather 100% rye exist if you know exactly what to look for. Your health is worth the extra effort. Buy the Arnold brand whole grain, rye sourdough, a 16-ounce loaf for about $1.25 from Kroger, instead of the Wonder Bread Classic White, a 13-ounce loaf for $1.39. Buy the Pepperidge Farm whole grain seeded rye bread, a 16-ounce loaf for about $2, instead of Dave's Killer Bread multigrain, a 10-ounce loaf for a similar price of $2.